Well, hello to people, I hope you're doing well. Now for this World Autism Awareness Week video, I wanted to have a look at how you go about getting an autism diagnosis. Basically getting your foot in the door and starting your autism diagnosis journey. Like you feel like it's the thing that you need to do in order to maybe get help or just officially have a name for something which you have experienced your entire life. But the steps in order to get your foot in the door to an autism diagnosis are not easy, not by any stretch of the imagination as you may have imagined. The reason for that is most of the time it can involve other people. And you know, it doesn't just involve you watching a YouTube video of a guy with, you know, cuddly toys in the background. And as a strange person on the internet who is talking autism stuff to you, especially during World Autism Awareness Week. And actually, if you want to see more of my other videos, everything's linked down below, including a playlist to all of the videos that I'm doing this week. As a strange person that likes to promote their own material, because I'm a person that promotes their own material. Basically, the first thing that I would suggest to you, especially if you're looking for a diagnosis, is keeping a journal or a diary of some sort where you basically list out, you know, traits, experiences that you've had. And the reason I'm saying this is mainly because if you're wanting to get your foot in the door for an autism diagnosis, quite often you really should be prepared for the kinds of questions that they will ask you. Please bear in mind that I was diagnosed young, so I don't know the current processes when it comes to an autism diagnosis, but I can only imagine that when it comes to the assessment process, and from what I've heard from other people, they tend to look at, you know, your current situation, how you experience things now and what traits you exhibit now, but they also look into your past quite a lot of the time and tend to speak to other people, maybe family members or partners, close friends, you know, whatever your situation is, they tend to ask the people that are closest to you. So I think having a journal or a diary, you know, documenting, you know, the traits and experiences that you're experiencing now, but also in the past, not only puts you in good stead for, you know, the assessment way down the line, but as we go along this video, I think you'll realize how important having something like that can be when you're compiling your list of traits and experiences and listening to strange people on the internet, because I mean, YouTube's cool with, you know, a Pikachu with a halucha mask, you know, I mean, who does that? My suggestion to you is to basically start to talk to other human beings about it, which I know is scary, especially because you've been over here doing your own research and looking into it for yourself. You know, it's a scary prospect, you know, taking that next leap. And also it's scary because you have that fear of, you know, people that you tell saying you don't look autistic, you're just weird, or you look pretty normal to me, which it's a bit weird because normality is just stupid. But anyway, I'm getting off track. You know, you have this fear of telling people because you just fear that judgment, you know, and preconceived ideas, and, you know, people basically stereotyping autism and autistic people based on the little to no knowledge that they know. And it's a perfectly rational, you know, fear to have. It's completely understandable. And with autism, this is very, very true. I mean, you have plenty of TV shows and movies. Sears film music, for example, is a very, very bad example of autism on film. But people might see something like that and think that is autism. You know, everything else, nah. And it's very easy for these people who have seen just this one film and don't want to look into it further to be ignorant of, you know, other points of view, other experiences, you know, and not looking into it further for themselves. So the fear itself in general, I do get and I do understand. But ultimately the reason why I'm suggesting talking to someone, you know, maybe it's a family member or something like that, it can be helpful to have their insights from their perspective. But also as well, at the stage when you're compiling traits and experiences, you know, involving your selected person or people in your actual research, I think can be really, really helpful. Not only for them to give their insights, but also for you to be able to explain, you know, what you see, you know, why you think you're autistic, you know, and putting it to that person. I think it also gives that person an idea of what they're actually looking for from you, you know, not based on preconceived, prejudgy ideas, you know, that can go over there. Actually, stereotypical ideas about autism, that can slide off. It's just all about you and this person, and, you know, basically you being able to say, you know, this is why I think I'm autistic, because of this, whatever, how many examples or experiences that you have. I think ultimately it helps you, and also it allows you to potentially, you know, have someone that you can turn to. Basically, you've given all this research to the person, explained why you think you're autistic. There is still this fear that, you know, they're just gonna outright dismiss it because of all of the stuff that we've just shoved into the corner, never to return. You know, it's always a fear, it's always a worry that, you know, when people are looking into autism for themselves to potentially be diagnosed. I imagine this is a fear that you all experience. I don't know. Do let me know down below. Depending on the person's age, you know, you don't have to actually talk to anyone about it. You know, you don't have to tell your partner or, you know, family about it. You know, you can just go on this diagnosis route on your own, but I think it becomes a lot more difficult, especially if you know, get your foot in the door and then the assessment stuff afterwards. It does become a lot more difficult, I feel, so that's why I'm suggesting, you know, telling your friends, family, whatever the case may be, someone that's close to you. Of course, we've obviously said that, you know, there's obviously going to be this fear and worry that you're going to have, but, you know, I think it's just about putting your faith in people, you know, because you don't know unless you say what's up and, you know, share, you know, what you've been doing. But now, you know, you've told your loved ones, you know, it's all not rainy, it's all good, it's all good. How do you go about getting an autism diagnosis? Well, ultimately, the first port of call in a typical scenario is going to your GP or just your family doctor, you know, whatever the case may be in your respective country. To be honest, a lot of these points now I'm going to be talking in regards to the UK because I live in the UK, but, you know, whatever the scenario is for you, it's up to you to research that for your respective country. You know, I can't, you know, I don't know everything about everything. Basically, you book this appointment to go and see the GP. Now, at this point, I'm going to try and give you some tips and things to prepare you for the appointment, you know, just things to consider and do beforehand. Honestly, going to the GPs or the doctors for me is the most stressful thing in the world. I hate doing it. I hate admitting when there's things wrong because it's just stressful and just involves other people. So if you feel like that, I totally understand, but I'm here to help. And one of the things that I would suggest is, you know, preparing notes. Now, remember when I said, you know, keeping a journal or a diary of your autistic traits, experiences that you've experienced both in the present day and also in the past can be incredibly valuable? This is precisely why. You can take a list of your, you know, main traits that you experience or have experienced, you know, to be able to say to the doctor, I experienced these things, or I have experienced these things which I think make me autistic. And examples can include, but it's not limited to this list, but issues with communication, sensory issues, social difficulties, difficulties making friends or relationships, you know, routine, you know, keeping a routine. But the most important thing about this, though, that I highly encourage people to do is making the list personal to you and relatable to you. It's no good, you know, saying I have this trait because a person on the internet who has a Pikachu with a wrestling mask said so. You know, it has to be you, you know, it has to be about you, and it has to be relatable to you. But also, while you're preparing your list, it may be good to actually write down as well actually why you want to be diagnosed as autistic, because obviously people have preconceived ideas of, you know, autism, why do you want that label? For you, it may be because you need support and an official diagnosis of autism, you know, can get you that support. Basically, make it about you, make the list about you, the reason why about you, you know, to explain to your GP as to why you want to start the road, you know, to get this autism diagnosis. The second thing which can help you, you know, in the GP practice, talking to the GP, taking someone along with you. Like I said before, you know, I think it's important to include people who you trust in the process of, you know, your research. And also it can be helpful if you've included them in your research, because you can then take them along with you. You don't know who you're going to see sometimes, and sometimes that anxiety of not knowing is like, oh my god, I don't know how I'm going to be able to speak to this person about this really personal thing. You know, it can be good having someone there to kind of back you up, make sure you're alright and things, especially afterwards or before. The third thing that I think can be incredibly helpful in this scenario when you're talking to your GP is having a list already prepared of places locally to you which can actually diagnose you. The reason why I'm saying this in the first place is because GPs, doctors, as well, especially in the UK, GPs do quite a lot of work. I know this personally because I've actually talked to quite a few GPs. Sometimes they don't know where to refer a person, and sometimes as well you may get a GP or a doctor who has little knowledge of autism at all, despite being a general practitioner. If you have a list of, you know, different places in your local area who can actually diagnose autism, and in particular if you're an adults on the spectrum, because depending on your area, you know, there may be quite a few options, there may be limited amounts of options, and like I said, GPs, they don't know everything, you know, despite, you know, what we may think of GPs, they don't hold all of the knowledge in the world. And, you know, I think helping them, as well as present your case and all of that sort of stuff, actually helping them by saying, you know, I've already done my research, these are the places where I can potentially get an autism diagnosis, you just need to refer me. It ultimately helps lessen the delay. And what I mean by lessen the delay is that getting an autism diagnosis takes an extremely long time in some circumstances. It could be months or even years in some cases, which, you know, is not great. After all of that, you've explained your case, all of this other stuff, it's ultimately down to the decision of the GP whether they are going to refer you or not, because ultimately GPs are the gatekeepers to services effectively. If it is in their thought process not to send a referral off for you to, you know, autism services, you know, don't be disheartened by that, because I think, you know, honestly, just getting to that point where you've done all this research and everything like that, you know, you will feel disheartened by it. Honestly, don't. It may be the case that you want to make a second appointment to re-explain your case, or you just want a second opinion, so you go and book an appointment to see another GP, someone different from the first person that you saw. But, you know, say the GP accepted, you know, your point of view, you know, agrees with you, you know, that you could be autistic. It's going to be a long wait to hear back from autism services because of just general backlog in the system. It's just the way that it is, unfortunately. So what can you do during this time? One of the things I would suggest at this point is continuing your research, you know, because it may take a while for autism services to get back to you. So continuing your own research can be incredibly helpful during this period. But what I would strongly suggest is finding other like-minded people. So people online, such as the weird person over here with, I'm going to stop doing that now, but, you know, people with the Pikachu in the background, you know, people like me, and, you know, other autistic creators and things, you know, on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok in particular for autistic creators is just honestly a massive thing right now. So maybe finding people online, you know, who you can relate to can be incredibly helpful during this time while you're waiting around. Maybe finding a forum or a group on Facebook. To be honest, Facebook groups, not really the best. I prefer Reddit myself. Finding an autistic based subreddit, so maybe something like r/autistic pride, that's one of my favorite ones personally, you know, something like that, just to help you along your journey while you're waiting around for the services to come back. But ultimately, opening yourself up to other people's experiences can be incredibly helpful. That is all the advice that I have for this video, but if you did enjoy it, make sure you leave me one of those, hit the thumbs up button down there, and if you want to see me talk about autism a bit more, like you enjoyed this video and you want to see more content, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, because I do this on a weekly basis. But for now, stay you, stay indie, and I will see you tomorrow for another World Autism Awareness Week video. Take care.